Story 1. The Landlord's Revenge. Christian always viewed me as just a housewife. He was a high-powered attorney, and in his eyes, I was merely a trophy to keep his home running. But he forgot one crucial detail. Before we married, I was a senior financial analyst, and I never stopped crunching the numbers. It all started with a stray receipt from a high-end jewelry boutique for $5,000. I knew for a fact I hadn't received any new earrings. Then came the business trips every weekend. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I went to work. I knew his law firm rented a prestigious office space downtown, and I discovered the building owner was an old acquaintance facing bankruptcy. Using my premarital savings and an inheritance from my grandmother, I took out a quiet loan and bought the entire building through an anonymous LLC. Christian had no idea that his own wife was now his landlord. The day of the divorce hearing, Christian sat there with a smug grin. His young mistress, who happened to be his secretary, was sitting in the front row. He told the judge, "My wife hasn't worked in 10 years. She isn't entitled to my assets, and she certainly isn't getting a piece of my firm." My lawyer calmly leaned forward and placed a folder on the judge's desk. "We aren't asking for the firm, Your Honor. We are simply notifying Mr. Christian that his law firm lease expires today at 5 p.m., and the new owner of the building, my client Evelyn, has no intention of renewing it." Christian's jaw literally dropped. He realized that by tomorrow morning, his staff would be locked out and his files and equipment would be held in a building he no longer had access to. He lost his wife, his reputation, and his place of business in a single afternoon. Story 2. The Wedding Guest Surprise. I was supposed to marry Mark in 24 hours. My dress was hanging on the door and the champagne was chilling. But when Mark stepped into the shower, his phone lit up on the kitchen counter. It was a text from my maid of honor, Sarah. It read, "I can't wait for tomorrow night. Once you're officially a married man, we'll just have to be even more careful." I scrolled through their messages. They had been together for 6 months. They laughed about me picking out wedding flowers while they were meeting up in hotels. My heart shattered, but my brain went into survival mode. I didn't cancel the wedding. Instead, I sent a mass text to all the guests. "The program has changed. Expect a special surprise." At the altar, when the priest asked if anyone had any objections, I raised my hand. "I do," I said clearly. I pulled out my phone and connected it via Bluetooth to the massive projector screens meant for our love story slideshow. Instead of vacation photos, all 200 guests saw high-resolution screenshots of their dirty text. Mark's parents were horrified. Sarah tried to sprint out of the church, and I simply took off my veil and headed straight for the bar. It was the best party of my life, even if I was the only one celebrating.
Story 3. The Secret in the Closet. We hired Anna to look after our 5-year-old son, Leo. She seemed perfect, kind, quiet, and always had Leo in bed by 8 p.m. But after a month, Leo started talking about the other mommy who lived in his room. We assumed it was just a typical imaginary friend, until I found food wrappers in the trash for snacks we never buy. I hid a camera inside a teddy bear on the shelf. That evening, my husband and I watched the footage. We saw Anna open a hidden panel in the back of our old walk-in closet. A woman stepped out who looked exactly like Anna. They sat together on the floor, eating our food and whispering while Leo slept. It turned out Anna was hiding her twin sister, who was a fugitive wanted by the law. We called the police before even entering the house. Both were arrested on the spot. We later found out they were waiting for our summer vacation to take over our house entirely and steal our identities. Now I trust nothing but my own gut and 24/7 surveillance.
Story 4. The IT Professional's Bonus. My boss fired me 2 days before Christmas just so we wouldn't have to pay out my $20,000 annual bonus. He looked me in the eye and said, "You're just a replaceable gear in the machine." What he didn't realize was that I was the gear that kept the entire machine from exploding. I had written the entire custom security code for their infrastructure. I left without a word. However, I knew that every 30 days, the system required a manual license key update that was hosted on my personal, private cloud. 1 week after I was escorted out, the company's entire network went dark. The website crashed, and payments stopped processing. My boss called me in a blind rage, then eventually started begging. He offered me my original bonus if I would just fix the glitch. I told him, "I'm a freelance consultant now. My emergency call-out fee is $50,000, paid up front." He had no choice but to pay. Never provoke the people who know your passwords.
Story 5. The Heir and the Junk Box. My grandfather was a millionaire, but he was a very lonely man. My uncles and aunts only called him on holidays, clearly just waiting for him to pass away so they could claim their share. I was the only one who visited him every week just to play dominoes and listen to his stories. When he passed, the whole family gathered at the lawyer's office. My Uncle Tom was already looking at brochures for a new Ferrari. The lawyer opened the will and read, "My entire estate, including my homes and bank accounts, shall be sold." The family was stunned. "And the proceeds will be donated to charity," the lawyer continued. "Except for the contents of the old safe in the basement. I leave that to my grandson." My relatives laughed at me as I pulled out stacks of old, dusty baseball cards from the safe. They thought it was literally garbage, but tucked inside was a 1909 Honus Wagner card. At auction, I sold it for over $6 million. My grandfather knew exactly who loved him for him and who only loved his wallet.